We thank God for this wonderful Wednesday that God has graced us to fellowship together on this evening. Welcome to tonight's discussion. Let's talk motherhood. As we approach Mother's Day, I felt that it would be fitting to facilitate a wonderful discussion. We have moms from all walks of life that may be viewing, and we simply tonight want to come on to bring encouragement. Tonight, we're going to begin with our panel introduction. Of course, I'm Lady Trinice Maurice.
I'm Yolanda Smith.
I'm Shanika Yates.
Erica Joseph.
Thank you, ladies, so very much for joining me on tonight, taking time out of your very, very busy schedule for us to come on tonight. Tonight is Word Wednesday night, but tonight we wanted to make sure that we fulfill this obligation of Let's Talk Motherhood. You know, when we think about the Bible, it does not address Mother's Day as an actual holiday. But throughout the Bible, it gives reverence to mothers all over. And I'm going to simply read this scripture. It states, "Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household, and she does not eat the bread of idleness." That's Proverbs 31, verse 25 through 28. As I hear those words throughout that scripture, it's very, very powerful. And it simply reminds us who we are as not only women, but also as mothers. You know, we are actually in a time that motherhood for some of us may look a little different than what we may have been reared. You know, my mom and I, we always tease and laugh. And sometimes when I get off from work, I'm running through a drive-through, I'm picking up something to eat, and she quickly asks me, "When y'all gonna cook over there?" And I said, "Well, I tell you what, Mom, what I can do, I can, go buy the beans and all the ingredients, and I can bring it over to you, and maybe you can help us with meal prepping since you feel that I'm not doing it adequately enough the way she did it, and maybe you can help prepare our meals for the week." And she quickly says, I ain't got time to do all that. So when I say it looks a little bit different than what we actually experienced when we during our child rearing days, or we were reared as children, should I say, many of us as women now have to balance careers, personal responsibility, our family lives. So I want to begin our discussion by talking about balance. I talk to many women, and oftentimes balance is a struggle for many of us. We may give 80% to this area of our lives, 5% to another area, 3% to this area. But women viewing or women here in the building on tonight, how can we find balance in our lives as mothers is what I would like to talk about. So I'll ask you, Sister Yates, to go ahead and give your response to that.
I believe that we should set boundaries. It's super important for us to draw hard lines in the sand as it pertains to our family, our careers. For example, if I leave work at 5 o'clock, I'm going to say by 8 o'clock, I'm going to turn off my phone. Set boundaries. It is okay to say that is enough. Now it's family time. I need to spend time with my children. I need to spend time with my husband or significant other. I think it's super important to do that.
That's good. That's very, very key. I appreciate that information. And look, even with you sharing boundaries, even for myself personally, that is something that I feel that I can even further work on because I am one of those people say, call me anytime at night, I'm going to answer. Call me. It's 1, 2 in the morning, I'm going to wake up and talk to you, So I agree. Creating boundaries are highly, highly effective because I have found that when you do set boundaries, what it does convey to other people is I'm not going to allow you to rob my time.
That's right.
Because is something called time robbers, right?
Right.
Where people would just kind of dump on you, dump their issues on you, dump their problems on you, and it actually robs you away from the things that you deem important to you. Sister Joseph, you care to chime in on that?
Yeah, sure. So I had to learn that here recently. So I've gotten into the habit where my time is 9:30 now, because I'm like Lady T mentioned, I do give a lot of my time and I'm real generous with it. But I've had to learn that you really can't balance in that way. That something is always lacking. You know, where you may be giving it all here, the areas that really matter may be lacking. And so I've had to set that timer at 9:30 and I don't hear the phone. They're like, your phone going straight to voicemail. I'm like, yeah, I know, right? So it's really been good. It's been beneficial for me, even just to have time in my own head, in my own space, right? Just coming down from the day. So I'm really grateful for that in learning to set boundaries and learning to say the word no.
And sometimes people view no as a bad word. And it's not, because it actually saying no can actually be healthy
Yes.
for yourself, and always being a yes person can be so detrimental in so many other areas of your life. I guess, sometimes we also feel the pressure to want to please and satisfy others that are in our lives that are demanding of our time. With setting those boundaries, have you all found that you've had any challenges or opposition from other people in your lives when you do set those boundaries? And how do you kind of deal with that?
Absolutely. I feel like they're offended, especially in the workplace. If I say, hey, I don't want you to call me after 8, it's a problem. But I had to explain, hey, the divine order of God is not work first.
Yes.
It's family.
Yes.
And so it's super important for you to understand that. And maybe some people don't understand because they don't have the balance, but you still must require they respect your boundaries.
That's right.
They
That's right.
you have to require that.
That's right. Sister Yolanda, what's your take on balance?
Well, I'm proud to hear about your 8:30, your 9:30.
Mm-hmm.
But mine starts as soon as my husband walks through the door. I have discovered, and I had to learn that he would pretty much shut down and not talk to me because I was on the phone with somebody else. In my mindset, I was thinking that whenever he would come home, that the kids are already gone to do whatever it is they need to do, and I would just be on the phone while I'm cooking, while I'm cleaning, because that helped to keep me going. For some strange reason in my mind, that's what I was thinking. I can talk and do all this stuff. But after we had a discussion about it, the eye opener for me was, hey, I need you. So it's whenever he comes through the door. If that says 6 o'clock, when he comes through the door, hey, if I'm on the phone with you, I gotta go. That's just what it is. And I'm grateful for doing that, because now we have a better communication and all of that. And then I was even missing things with my babies because, while I'm in there trying to cook and I'm on the phone, they might come tap me or whatever. And I say, okay, well, hold on for a minute. So I missed something. So I've even, I've been able to see that too. So I'm grateful for that boundary for sure.
Right.
Yeah, because it has brought a real closeness to. We've always been close, but we're even closer now because now I'm understanding that something that I deemed as not important, it was important.
Yes, yes. So what I'm hearing you say, with you creating that balance, what it also did would help to enhance your family time.
Yes, yes.
The relationship between you and your husband, because I can imagine once he got silent and kind of giving you that silent treatment, you're like, that's a no-no. We got to fix
We have to
whatever
fix
the
this.
problem
That's right,
is.
Exactly.
And I can appreciate the healthy dialogue where he was able to communicate to you exactly how it made him feel,
Yes.
when you did do that. And the beauty of it is, as a woman, as a wife, you respected him enough to honor his wishes and recognize that as him being the king in your household, that what he needed from you is what mattered most. it matter most. So I appreciate you all have some really, really strong perspective as it relates, to balance. Let's mosey on a little bit. When we think about motherhood and we think about children, all of us have children that are at different phases of life. The needs that your kids had from you as an infant change as they became school age, then they matriculate on to teen years, and now some even in early adulthood. I am finding that we're at a place that our children are experiencing many, many barriers. Many barriers. Whether that be peer pressure in school, whether that's decision making, where some of them aren't necessarily making the best decisions that are reflective of the way we may be rearing them, or does not reflect the values that we try to instill in them. And sometimes there is a pressure that comes from a parent upon a child that heightens the expectation of how we expect them to perform. Not all the time we are actually pleased with the outcomes of some of those situations. Some of us, have children, you're doing great, they're thriving, they're doing well, but life's experiences sometimes cause a barrier for them. I want to talk about just general parenting. All of us have different parenting styles. I am more of an authoritarian in my household with my kids. We play a lot, we laugh a lot, we joke a lot. However, when it kind of comes between my husband sometimes and myself, we have some that feel more comfortable going to him as their first choice. Then we have others in the house who will utilize and come to me first as their first choice, and he's their second, right? I believe all of that is connected to our parenting styles, our responses on things. He is more of one that talks out through situations. I will talk it out after I come from 10. We're going to talk it out after I come from 10, because that's just my first reaction, depending on what it is. Doesn't mean it's always the best response or the best reaction. But dealing with parenting, my oldest is now 21 years of age. 21, we know, means adulthood. However, at 21 and the way you know your child, I'm struggling with releasing that she is now an adult, and I'm kind of still viewing her as a child, so that's a challenge for me. So let's talk about when our kids experience these challenges in life. How are we actually handling and dealing with helping them navigate through some of these situations? I'll let you go.
So, for me, another reality check. My kids had to really sit down and tell me, you yell about everything. So, for whatever they would come to me about, because they're going to come to me first, because they're not going to go to their daddy. That's just not what's going to happen. They'll wait, but unless I yell at them. And then, then I'm the bad guy. But they actually came to me and they said, Mom, you yell a lot. We don't feel comfortable coming to you because you yell so much. Or either they would take a different route just to keep from telling me something. So that was a reality check for me, because God had to say to me, you have never been perfect. You did the same things, if not more, when you were younger. And I need you to show that same grace that I give to you every single day. So now the way I pretty much handle it is, if they do something and it just makes me angry, I tell them, give me just a few minutes, then we'll come back and revisit it. Because I don't want to have the relationship of, you don't ever feel like you can come to me. I need you to come to me. because you may be dealing with something that nobody else can help you with. Your mama needs to know.
That's right.
So I try now to work real hard. I'm always extending, how much I love them. Even when they mess up, I still try to tell them, okay, well, this is how this should have went. It didn't happen this way, so now we have to deal with it. But at the end of the day, I still love you.
Yes.
You're still my baby. We're going to work through it, and we'll just do what we have to do.
Right, right. I appreciate that, and I think one of the hugest thing that I pull from what you just said is remembering that we also made mistakes as we were coming up as children, and if the truth be told, we still make mistakes even as adults, right? So being able to be transparent with our children, I think is very, very key to share those experiences, because oftentimes they just see the current version of who we are and not understanding. Even with my daughter, I share with her, she's in college now, and there were many, many, many mistakes that I made that I shared with her with the expectation of her not repeating some of those errors. And I'm slowly finding out that it don't matter how much you talk. It's something about experiencing some things for yourself for it to resonate and for you to kind of learn that lesson, and that kind of, upsets me when I'm like, I told you this, we talked about this, but it's just something different about them actually experiencing that. So you're absolutely right. We need them to come to us, to be able to talk with us, because if they can't come to mama, where else can they go to be able to talk about some of the situations that are going on? And I appreciate that even after the kids told you that, sometimes the way you respond, that's something that you was willing to work on. We have to be willing to embrace change and be able to work on changing some things that are actually healthier, to create healthier relationships between ourselves and our children as well. So, go ahead.
Okay. So I used to start on 10. When they would mess up, I would say, hey, not quite sure why you did it, but let's talk about it. I am very transparent with them now because it's a fine line between them being children, and now I have a 22-year-old and a 19-year-old. So the fussing, screaming, they shut down and they don't listen to you at that point. So I had to find another way to communicate with them. And just having patience to let them say exactly what it is they want to say, and me not react negatively every single time helped. Because they could see the look on my face and say, okay, mama mad, I probably shouldn't say the rest of it. But I had to, change my body posture, change just everything, my response to what they were telling me, so they could open up to tell me, because I don't want my children to get bad advice from someone who really don't have all the right answers anyway. Lastly, I tell my children, the game don't change. The players did.
Yeah.
So mama told you
Right.
exactly what it's gonna be. It's the same. Mama did it already. Yes, I know you want to make the mistakes yourself. I get it. But if you just listen a little bit, just a little bit, it might help you. So
Good, good. Thank you.
So I have a 17-year-old and a 9-year-old, and they're both different and unique in their own ways. And the approach to, dealing with them is different. And so one you could be firm with, the other, if you're too firm, then the feelings are hurt, very sensitive. And so my husband and I, we are very aware of that. And one can go to him versus me, like you also, Lady Trinice. My oldest is really like her dad, and so they relate. I sometimes feel like they tag teaming on me, right? But and then my youngest, she's more like me, I would say. And so I find that gap, I think for me, it's a challenge because of the age difference, right? And they're dealing with different things, and as far as their school peers, just their issues that they may be having. And so it's a lot of flip-flopping going on in how I'm approaching this one versus that one. And but one of the things I am open and honest and transparent with them that we don't always get it right. And then if we are approaching it in the wrong way, or yell, get upset, hurt their feelings, I try to apologize,
Yeah,
right, and
yeah.
say I shouldn't have behaved, or because
Yes.
I'm telling you, you shouldn't behave like that, and you should have better management of your emotions.
That's right.
But then I don't do the same.
Yes.
And so I try to be an example and say that it's valid, but we needed to handle it better.
Yes.
And so that they'll understand that we shouldn't, react, have blow ups all the time when we are engaging in discussions. And one of the things when I grew up, my husband and I, we tried to do this a little bit differently. When I grew up, it was with my grandparents and my mom, and whatever they said, that's just how it is,
That's
right?
That's right.
And so I feel like we lost our voice in that because it was just whatever they say, you got to do it. Don't ask questions, because it was like you was challenging them or being disrespectful. And so we raised them to ask questions, right?
Yes.
But then sometimes it gets kind of like, you can't ask me that, right?
That's right.
But we did want them to ask us,
That's
and
right.
so it's a fine line because they flip it on you.
Yeah.
Where we want them to exercise and have a voice and understand how to use it. When you parenting, though, it can be challenging, and so we always learning, and I learn from them a lot from them actually, and it makes me better, and I try and be a great example for them in how they should go.
Right. Well, thank you so very much. But I want to dive into, you made mention, and I also did as well, that sometimes, depending on the child, who they tend to kind of cater to more. And I just want to tell you, Pastor do get offended if they come to me first, so he do get offended. He's like, why you running to your mama for this? However, I think that it's very, very important that we allow children to be able to see as parents. And when I say parents, I don't necessarily mean, because not every parent, mom and dad, is necessarily in a union of marriage, right? But I think it's important that they see a unified front, that both parents are actually on the same page. Whatever the decision is, we both agree upon this decision, that kids don't see a division. Mom feels this way, dad feels that way. Would you agree upon that?
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
yeah.
And we struggled with that at one time because my way of teaching them was a little different than my husband's way. We came from two different backgrounds. So there were things that I was never allowed to do that my husband had free will to do.
Yeah.
So like when we talk about the kids, it's like, well, if you don't allow them to do such and such and such and such, then they'll never do X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, but oh no, I was raised that you teach them this. And in this house, we have to do spiritual things. We have to do what God tells us to do.
That's right.
I try to set the example of, and he does too now, but I mean, we come together now. We've learned from that. That was a struggle at first, but we really come together on how to come together when they come to us, because they will try to play us.
Yeah.
They do that pretty well, especially Embry. Embry will come to us because she's the baby and she got them big pretty eyes, and
Right.
she'll come to us and say, what Daddy said, and I say, oh no, let me talk to Daddy.
Right, right.
So now we've learned how to do that, and they know now that we're together on whatever we
Right,
decide.
that's good.
So
That's
that
good.
is most definitely a challenge. It was at first. So
Good. Oftentimes, children, when you have more than one in the household, sometimes they may express where they feel one child is obtaining more attention than the other child, or they may feel that one child tends to get away with a little bit more. Me personally, I feel that sometimes it can appear that way because we cater to each child depending upon what their needs are, right? But how do you guys actually handle that when you do have your children that feels that, okay, you allow her to do this, you don't allow me to do that? How do you kind of deal with that as far as parenting as well? I know your babies are older, but even when they were a little younger, did you experience that at all?
Well, I had a boy and a girl, so it was a little different. I had my girl who was a little bit older that needed more attention, and my boy who was just quiet and meek all of the time. So they really didn't struggle for attention. So not really.
Okay, okay.
Not really.
But you got something, and I'm going to come right back to you after I allow Sister Joseph to answer that. 'Cause especially when you having that age gap like that, I know you all experienced that.
We experienced it a lot because of the age difference, right? But also, my oldest, she always thinks we favor the youngest and taking up for her. It's always you take up for her, or you believe what she says, and she'll come tell on her or something like that. And we were like, well, what are you doing? And then it's like, you're older, you should get it. And so that part of it, it upsets her when we do that. So we had to say, well, she's sneaky. Let us check it out, right? What she's really doing. So, but we had to, and my mom, she really helped me with that, because she was like, you got to watch her, because she's doing some stuff to her. You don't see it, right? And so, and it's just to sometimes annoy her or just to play, but we really had to step back and say, okay, it is what she's saying. She is doing that. So then we had to talk to the youngest, don't do that, right? And then make her understand that she has to listen to her sister. But it was always coming from a place of, you're the oldest. She's watching you. You're the first friend, the first mentor, your first everything, and she's trying to just emulate, do everything that you do. And so that's been the challenge for us with that part.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. I find with our children, they'll sneak and come to me and they'll ask questions like, am I your golden child? No, ma'am, you're not. No, ma'am, you're not, because they're waiting for me to say yes so they can go tell the other ones, right? I said, no, you are not. All of you all are equal to me. And one of the things I always remind my children is that as you grow, and one day you guys will become adults, I really try to instill in them the importance of them having that brother-sister relationship. Even as adults in our current lives, sometimes you can see that distance between siblings, and I believe because a lot of it was not dealt with at a younger age. So you had siblings, sibling rivalry that occurred at younger ages. So now they're adults who really just can't get along, So I always remind them, I said, in the end, all you all have is one another. I said, so whether upset or not, you can't go days without talking to one another upset and angry. I said, you have to learn how to figure it out, talk it out, and work it out. So really pushing them to be able to have that close-knit relationship is very, very important to me. Sister Shanika, not to really get into I believe in allowing people to tell their own testimony. However, God has blessed you with a wonderful, wonderful man as a husband.
Amen.
Yes, he has.
Amen. Let me make sure I say it. He's probably looking, probably watching.
But before he came into your life, as your children were younger, as a single mom, I'm not exactly sure, how many years you can share that, but I want you to speak more to parenting as a single mom and some of the challenges that went along with that and how you were to overcome some of those obstacles.
Well, single parenting is tough. We all know that. It's important for us to have the conversation with our children, even about the parent that's not in the home, okay? A lot of times we hear when they get older, they'll see how their daddy is. But we have to understand that we don't want them to see that. We want to pray for their father, because it's still their father. We have to pray. So we prayed often for Daddy. Daddy may, be having some challenges right now, but Daddy still love you. Okay, I wasn't always like that. It took me some time to get like that, But it's so important to have those conversations with our babies because we don't want them to be hurt. So to say, we have to change the way we think about this. To say, they going to see how their daddy is when they get grown, and they'll see that he ain't no good. We can't do that to our babies because they are affected by it. And so I try so often to cover my children, even, saying, hey, daddy working a lot. It's not a lie, but daddy working a lot, and he's working on himself as well, just like mama's working on herself. I do believe that we need to cover the daddies, or even if it's dads raising the children, we need to cover the other parent because we don't want to see our children affected by it at all.
Yeah. That's very, very profound. In my, arena of work, even when I look at behavior, which is very, very, very prevalent right now with our school-age children, when I kind of look at the history, oftentimes there's a parent who's a male who may be missing piece of that puzzle, right? I was speaking to a kid one day, and I said, when I see him cut up, the first thing when I build a relationship, I'll ask, what's your relationship like with your dad? They'll kind of give you that reaction, or they'll say, oh, he's supposed to come this weekend, but I'm not going to wait on that. So there's a lot of bitterness. So when I hear you say that as a woman, as a Christian woman, a woman that loves God, for you to be able to speak positively in reference to their father, even when there may have been very little that you could scrounge to be able to say, you found a way to speak positively because you knew that that was instrumental to them one day perhaps being able to have that relationship. And you knew at the end of the day, it was not going to help gain anything for the children or for yourselves.
It doesn't at all. And if we continue to pray for our children's parents, whether it be a mother or a father, God promises that he's going to meet the needs of our children, and they will see salvation. The other parent will. And I can tell you right now, sitting here, I'm better for it, and so is he. And so my children see, their father often. They have an amazing relationship with him. 15 years ago, maybe not so much, but I continue to pray for him, even though I wasn't always happy about the situation, or I didn't feel like, the children were getting everything they needed from dad.
Yeah. Thank you so very much. That's a very, very excellent testimony. And she Marcus' wife now. All right, ladies, let's go ahead and move on. This is very good dialogue. I think healthy information that people can take away from this. Many times we feel obligated, as we shared in the beginning, to always say yes. We often feel very, very guilty when we make times for ourselves. We find time to push through our limitations, even when we know our plates are full and we know we can't do certain things. We say, yes, I'm going to do it. And we often self-deny ourselves. And everyone else is getting taken care of except us. I want to talk about self-care. It's very, very, very vital that you become slightly selfish in saying, I have to take care of me to be able to take care of my children, my family. Treating yourself to days of pampering. Anytime I talk to someone and they say, oh, what kind of gift you like? A spa day, you can just give me a spa card. I'm satisfied with that because that is what I enjoy doing. Being able to pamper myself, have a full day to do exactly what it is that I want to do. No one has to call to say, well, can you pick me up this and can you pick me up that? And I need to go here, go there. When it's your day, it's an opportunity for you to kind of connect with yourself, kind of get realigned, as a woman, some of the things that you may need. Tell me, how do you do self-care? And the way you're making your face, it doesn't look like you're doing it too much, the way your facial expression is. But even if you're not doing it, I want you to share on how you see yourself moving forward with beginning to implement this.
Okay, so I was just about to say you are really like preaching a word to me right now because I don't do self care. I think that when we were at the gas station and we were talking about, she was saying she was about to go get her nails done and do all that, and I thought,
You mean for the gas giveaway
yes,
that we did?
yes. But I was sitting there like I can't remember the last time that I went to go get my nails done, or I just took out time for me. Now, my husband was grateful. Let me shout him out right now before I get in trouble. He gave me a wonderful spa day for my birthday.
Okay.
He really did. And actually, that was really like the longest one that I had. It was like 3 hours.
And when was this?
March the 28th.
Oh, so recently.
Recently.
Okay, good.
So after that, I did say that I would love to begin setting time out for me. My issue, so y'all will have to help me, would be time management.
Okay.
Because I feel like that after I go to work, when I come home, there is like a million things for me to do. And I put my husband and my babies before me. I'm the last, well, my husband is the first one to get up, but I'm the last one to go to bed at night. Always. It never fails. So I do have an issue with time management. I really do. I really feel like that I don't set aside enough time for me to do things for me. Because even if I go shop, I don't buy for me, I buy for them. Because I've just put them first in every area, you know. So, yeah, I don't do so well with that.
Yeah, even with self-care, it's not always necessarily about the shopping or spending. Even if in your bathroom you can create an environment of relaxation, whether that's adding candles to your bathroom while you're relaxing in a hot, bubbly bath, not having somebody bust through the door and say, you know,
She's coming,
can you
though.
sign my paperwork before I go to school tomorrow? And don't care if you're in the bathroom or not, or no knocking or anything like this. Or let me show you this on the phone, you know, where it's interrupted that sanctuary that you've created. So I think that is important even in the house. It doesn't mean you have to leave the house to be able to get that self-care or that me time. You know, they may be wondering what she's doing in there all that time. Just relaxing, just thinking, just meditating, just kind of creating maybe like a 30-minute window to be able to do that for yourself. I would encourage just even starting there, because I think that is important to be whole in all areas of your life, you know, because in order to be able to take care of your family, you have to be able to take care of yourself, and understanding that you should not feel guilty about doing any of those things. So I'm not encouraging, you know, you have to spend money and go out to do any of these things, but even when you say I'm the last one to go to bed, you know, some people make their bath the last thing they do. Myself, I won't take a bath and then go play around with food in the kitchen.
No,
That's just not
no,
gonna
no,
happen.
no,
It ain't gonna
no,
happen.
no.
No, I don't want to smell like Ruth.
Right.
It's not gonna happen. So if that's the last thing you do at night, that can be your wind down. Your wind down for the night to be able to relax yourself. So that's just something small to just start off with. How are you with self-care?
I am great with it. I am going to do what I can not to be stressed. You know, we all have careers. So working a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, being on call, super important to take that time for yourself, whether it be go and get your nails done. Sometimes, even on my lunch break, I will go to lunch at a restaurant by myself. They have $10 specials. So you don't have to spend a whole lot of money,
Yes,
but just some time away where you don't have to talk to anybody,
that's right.
where you don't have to do anything. You don't have to think about nothing. You can just stare at the walls and relax for a second.
Yeah,
And I do it often.
yeah.
And I don't feel bad about it because I need to be the person I need to be for my children.
That's right.
I need to be the person I need to be for my husband, for my church, even. So take the time I need to.
Yeah, well, you sound like me. You taking good time. You sound taking good time. What about you, Sister Joy?
So I do. I go out to eat too by myself. It's mainly at lunch. But I also like to just sit outside. I don't have to do
Oh,
anything. I just
yes.
like to sit outside and take in nature. As a child, we spent a lot of time outside, and I was always barefoot, running, playing. Grew up in the country, so for me, that's a great space for me. So if I could get outside and just sit, then I can gather my thoughts. I can get
Yes.
back to where I need to be. So a lot of that, I spend time doing that. It may be a walk by myself or just sitting. But I also like to ride my bicycle. I have a bicycle. I also have a Peloton, so I do a lot of that. I get on that. It hypes you. It does everything I needed to do.
Yes.
Right? They coach me. They tell me what to do. So I do that, and then I do yoga. And I'm also my youngest. She loves yoga, and I'm teaching her to be in a space and connect with herself and just be aligned with herself. So we do that, and I'm teaching her meditation as well.
Good,
Yeah.
good. Sister Joseph, can you, in your experience and in your career, can you also, you shared some of the things that you do for self-care, but can you just expound a little bit more on, you know, some of the things that women deal with, whether it be depression, just bouts of feeling low, any recommendations, even there's a stigma
Mm-hmm.
that's associated with therapy,
Mm-hmm.
where there are a lot of things that we've experienced in life that we kind of just push down, pack under the rug. We tend to just pray about it. But that stigma that's associated with receiving therapy, can you talk even a little bit more about that for a woman who may be kind of on the fence about knowing that I need to talk to someone,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm fearful of doing that and what that may make me look like?
Okay. Yeah. So if individual is feeling really down, sad, depressed for more than 2 weeks, period of time, consistent day after day, unable to get out of bed, unable to do their activities that they live in, unable to just have a loss of interest and motivation in things, then that person is more than likely suffering with depression. Depression is one of the leading causes of disability, and so it's very important and key that if you know someone who is struggling with depression, that you offer them help, you offer them a way out, you let them know that it is okay. Yesterday I had on my T-shirt, I pray to God, and then I also go to therapy
Oh,
because it's
yeah.
good for us. Yeah, so it's important that we let them know that it's okay. Us talking about it here, talking about it with your friends, we normalize the conversations. We make it normal, and it's safe to talk about. And it's safe when you speak to someone in confidence with whatever you're going through. And so that's what I like about counseling.
Right.
It's a sounding board. You can go in, you can get it out.
That's
You don't
right.
have to carry it. You don't have to feel like you burden someone else with your problems. The professionals are getting paid for that, and they're not going to take your business anywhere.
That's right.
And ultimately, they're going to equip you with tools and strategies to face the next day. And that's the importance of it.
Right, right. An older person always would say to me, they say, baby, what don't come out in the wash gonna come out in the rinse, right? To me, in this discussion, that simply means that when you speak to a therapist or someone who serves as that sounding board in your life, for you to be able to release in a healthy way. If not, it'll come out another way
Right.
that will actually be unhealthy.
Yeah.
And with this,
Anger, resentment, all that.
that's correct. And oftentimes, our children or our families are witness
Right.
to that side that we don't want them to see, that anger, that
Right.
resentment, why mom's always mad, why she's always yelling, why she's always upset, because there's some other underlying issues that aren't actually being dealt with. So
Right.
thank you all so very much. And tonight I want to close out with this very, very key topic, prayer life. When we talk about balance, when we talk about parenting, and we talk about self-care, being a mother is impossible without having a strong prayer life. I think that it's very important for us to allow our children to see us pray, to hear us pray, to know that they're praying for them, and even more so, to participate in prayer with us.
Yes.
Share with us how you incorporate prayer time with your children, with your family, and what are some of the benefits that you have found with having that strong prayer life?
So if I can, I want to go back to the time when I was pregnant with him. We started then with me, reading the word to him, praying, going from there. Um, let's just fast forward to the age of 2 for both of them. They were both able to pray just as a grown woman or grown man could. People found it like wow, like they really can do this. That was something that I always placed there. They got to the point. I just remember Embry asking me one day that I would be in my prayer room and I would be praying, and I would begin to speak in tongues. And it became normal to them for them to hear that. But at one time when I had gotten away from that, she came to me herself and said, "I hadn't heard you praying in tongues like you were." She was used to that. We would pray together every night, every morning. And to me, the benefits of that is to watch what you put in them come out of them. Because then you're sitting there like, I know it's God, but I'm like, really? Like, you really just did that? So, like, a lot of times with her and Trey, they're both able to come to me and speak a word to me that I'm like, wow, and I thank God for that. I really, really thank God for that, because at my weakest points, they're the ones that keep me strong.
That's right.
They keep me strong every sense of the way, and I mean, like, it's just amazing. Like,
Yeah.
that is so beneficial to make sure that you instill that in your children. Not just a prayer here and there, but just the fact of that if I have to leave this world on today,
That's right.
you know who to go to.
That's
You
right.
know God is your first and
That's
your
right.
foremost.
That's right.
So I'm just here to encourage any mother, even when it seems bad, just keep giving them that word, and you just watch that come out of them.
That's right.
That is amazing to me.
It is. It is. And I am a witness that sometimes life will throw you hard blows of different situations that as women, as mothers, that we have had to face and had to fight our way through. And only with prayer.
Only with prayer.
Only with prayer that you're able to see the other side of some of those situations. Our babies are faced with so much peer pressure, so many barriers. They even deal with friendship. Our baby, most of them are self-sufficient. They're loners. They can be to themselves. But our baby, she struggles with wanting or having to have friends, and really helping her to understand the importance of being comfortable in your own skin and comfortable with, if you don't have any other friends at all, that's okay. That's fine, because as you grow in life, the friends you have now in elementary school, those set of friends are going to change in middle school, then on to high school. So it's a challenge for them, So thank you so very much for sharing, how prayer life has impacted and been beneficial in your life, as a mother. Go ahead.
Okay. My babies taught me how to pray. I don't think when they were younger, they saw as much prayer in the house then. But when they became teenagers and they started to go through different challenges, it pushed me to pray. It pushed me to have to seek God, because that's all I had. And so I had to pray with them. I said, hey, before I leave tests, if they were having challenges at school, hey, let's agree before you go to school. Let's pray before you go to school. And it strengthened them. Maybe they didn't understand it then because they didn't start out like that as babies. But growing up and them going through things and them seeing mama pray, all it did was increase their faith. So they knew, hey, mama prayed, we got through this. Maybe I need to pray. I need to start to pray for myself. And I always told them, mama not going to be here forever. And because mama is not going to be here, you have to learn how to pray for yourself. You have to seek God for yourself. You have to do that. You cannot just fly by on mama's prayers. And so even now at 19 and 22, my son called me the other day, and he was like, Mama, I opened my Bible, and I've been reading my Bible more, and I'm praying before I go to sleep. And he's in college. He's away from me. And that's all we really want for our babies, is to be able to seek God for themselves and be at school, be a leader, and be able to, when they can't find anything else, they know how to pray and seek God.
Definitely. Yeah, and I agree with all that's been said. Same thing with my oldest, Lindsay and Lourdes. We pray at night. We pray in the morning. We pray in the car. We even, I actually also make them say affirmations every day. When you talk about being who they are and comfortable who they are. So we do a lot of I am statements. Whenever they are going through issues, Lourdes sometimes come and grab me. Can you please pray with me? You know, because she deals with some fear and a lot of anxiety and stuff we're working through with her. And so in those moments, she recognizes her anxiety and her fear. And I always say, God's going to get you through it. So she knows we're going to pray about it. And we just pray about that thing, and she's getting better. But we do that with our oldest too, who's had challenges with bullying and grief when we lost my sister in 2016. And so we've had to overcome a whole lot. And they understand the power of prayer, and they know that that's the only way through. And then watching my oldest as we're getting ready for college and applying for things, and the questions say, well, how do you overcome challenges? And then to see her answers, and that she relied on God to get her through. We in fact, before I came here, we were writing on something, and that was her response. Like, God saw her through those things, and she's better for it, you know, through her grief, through the bullying. And so I'm very grateful for letting them see, you know, how I've overcome, and I'm honest with where I've come from and how things have been. And so they understood that we only got there by the grace of God and prayer.
That's right. That's right. You know, in our daily lives, it can become so busy, so hectic, so many different things that are vying for our time. Our children are actually in a digital age where they have all these apps, all of these gadgets, some of the newest technology with the telephones. But even with that, I think that there are different ways that you can still incorporate prayer, whether that be, there's an app for everything. So even incorporating prayer apps would help you learn the different books of the Bible, apps that offer children biblical stories. I can remember when we were coming up, you'd be surprised how many kids that don't even know the 10 Commandments. Some of the basic things, you know, the first five books of the Bible, you know, simple things that they've kind of gotten away from. You know, I thank God for such a wonderful youth ministry that we have, that is why we're trying to incorporate some of those teaching and the learning for them to be able to get some of those key nuggets. But even with them having the phones and the Chromebooks and iPads, making sure that we incorporate some apps on their devices where they can truly, truly, truly learn. I want to say thank you so much tonight, ladies, as we wrap up this segment of Let's Talk Motherhood. It's been very, very profound. It is our prayer that some woman that's watching with us on tonight found this to be very resourceful. It is our prayer that you are encouraged and motivated to continue being a mother, that you are. With some children, we realize that it takes a village, and it's nothing wrong with that. If you need help, you know, even in your parenting and with your mothering, we want to say thank you so much to our pastor, Pastor James Maurice, for allowing us this platform on tonight. And we want to say to all mothers this weekend, do something to celebrate you. We say Happy Mother's Day to you, and we love you. Thank you. Thank y'all, ladies. We appreciate it so very much. Thank y'all so very much.
You brought me.
No.